Appreciate your participation on today's panel. Our next guest is Sufel Barket from Arthur J. Gallagher. Arthur J. Gallagher is a Fortune 500 company and a global leader in insurance, risk management, and consulting services. It provides client-centric risk management solutions and has global presence with over 30,000 employees across 150 countries. Sufel is the Vice President of HRIS at AJ Gallagher. He's an accomplished, innovative, senior-level executive with diverse expertise in establishing and operating global IT organizations across many industries. Sufel has deep experience in change management, managing ERPs and BI tools, including Oracle E-Business Suite, PeopleSoft, SAP, Hyperion, and Business Objects. Sufel, it's a pleasure to have you on the panel, and thank you for joining. Sufel, your cloud journey began sometime back with the adoption of SaaS solutions, but more recently, you have led the effort at AJ Gallagher to migrate Oracle E-Business Suite from the legacy environment in a traditional data center to cloud. This time around, you adopted for an IaaS solution rather than SaaS. What were the key drivers and the factors that helped you decide whether to adopt IaaS or SaaS? What helped you put the business case together? And then finally, given that AJ Gallagher is in the insurance business, what are some of the mandates that you need to comply with and that were factored into this decision?
No, great question. Thank you, Srini, for having me here on the panel today. And I want to thank all the other panelists that are joining us today in helping answer some of these questions on the format that we have for this engagement. So as far as IaaS versus SaaS or software as a service, the reason we chose that is that we currently have our EBS platform, which houses Australia, New Zealand, and the Caribbean, specifically on a on-site hosting kind of provider component. And there's a few reasons that we justified, not only from a cost perspective, of course, cost is always important to help reduce cost when we're doing something like this. But we also looked at the security component for IaaS, as well as other components that help us in the cloud from an access perspective, from a performance perspective, and from a processing perspective. We're having challenges in our current environment when we did have a network issue within Gallagher. So if someone could not sign into Gallagher's network, they could not get to the system. So from a cloud perspective, the ROI was, and the business case was pretty straightforward as far as making it available to our employees and our processors, HR processors, 24/7. Security was a question that was easily answered with the ROI business case, as well as the cost reduction component of moving it to the cloud. Why didn't we move it to software as a service? Well, some of these countries and some of the software vendors that we have out there do not provide software as a service for, say, payroll in those countries, right? So they're still a little behind, lagging behind in getting payroll up and running in those companies in software as a service. So we wanted to, and we made a decision with our eyes, kind of going into this, that it's going to take some time for our software vendors to catch up for those countries in those functional areas. So we were going to stay on the platform we're on currently, but we were looking for a lower cost point and a better place to host it. And that's why we chose to migrate it to an IaaS environment and leverage our current feature functionality that we have. We did have to review a lot of variations of components, the database layer, the middle layer, as well as the application layer on exactly what we're going to do and take advantage of this migration to the IaaS and how we're going to do that and which tools we're going to use, which partner we're going to use. We have to go through a process of defining that.
Sufel, thank you. That was very insightful and helpful. Appreciate your expertise in this industry and certainly the leadership you have been demonstrating over the years. Our next question, Sufel, is, I know the whole idea of choosing OCI was to utilize the inherent features of OCI, including database cloud service. Can you talk about the benefits and value generated by migrating to OCI?
Yes.
Thank you, Srini, for that question. Appreciate the follow-up. Yeah, yes. From a OCI perspective, that's the tool and the software provider we chose was Oracle as an infrastructure to migrate our applications to. A few of the reasons we chose that platform again was dynamic access to our EBS system from Australia, New Zealand, as well as from the Caribbean. 24/7 access for all of us, authentication and security being a key factor in ensuring that that works properly after the migration will also be a very leverageable asset to ensure that our applications are secure and authentication and everything else is happening securely, as well as performance. Connecting from Australia, New Zealand, and the Caribbean is getting easier nowadays with technology and being able to ensure that the latency is as low as possible. But Oracle has come up with a lot of good technologies and working with SuneraTech that we're going to implement some of these components when we go to OCI. Things like Fast Connect and using some of these tools that Oracle brings to bear on the table, and ensuring that we leverage those components to kind of see our ROI come to fruition, as well as our cost reduction and business case. The different levels of support that we also get from OCI is very appreciated coming in from Oracle and from SuneraTech. So we now have database level support with SLAs, we have middleware, we have application level support, where we can actually manage and control it better without any concerns or issues with the right skill sets, and making sure that things get taken care of in a timely manner. So OCI brought us a lot of flexibility as far as being able to not only manage the services, but also to help us kind of take a hands-off approach to ensuring that we are focusing on more of the business processes and the change management components from a Gallagher perspective, rather than the technology, and giving the technologists with the right skill sets from SuneraTech and Oracle the access that they needed to ensure that they could support us and keep things up and running and operational, what they call keeping the lights on. So I think overall it's coming out to be a great move for us, and we will over the next 2-3 years see and come cost savings substantially, as well as some of the resources that will switch over to managing the database, upgrading the database, upgrading the application, applying patches. All of that will have an impact as far as the next 2-3 years are concerned, and ensuring that we do that properly. So hopefully that helps. Thank you, Srini.
Thank you very much. That really demonstrated your expertise in the industry, and really helps our audience understand more about the decisions that are required to be made as organizations migrate to OCI. Thank you. Our next question, Sufel, is migrating to cloud is not a small project. A ton of preparation and effort goes into it. Could you explain the kind of preparation, the decisions that you had to make, some of the challenges you faced, and how you mitigated these challenges as you proceeded with the execution decision-making phase?
Yeah. So from a decision-making phase, getting into a project phase, we focused on, and we knew going in that the biggest component of the going to the cloud is going to be around change management. So change management was the focus area from kicking off the project initially, coming up with the game plan of what we're going to implement, which functions, or let's say modules, we're going to implement, and which ones will be absorbed by our employees and by our organization as quickly as possible, get a success in. So we phased the implementation over 2-3 phases, and ensured that we understood exactly how we were going to proceed with change management. So we had a small change management team, not only from the partner, but also from Gallagher, that worked together in ensuring that everyone understood how it was going to impact the employees, what process changes, because we took this opportunity to do a lot of business process changes, and standardize and globalize our let's say nomenclature as well as our business processes. So that worked to our advantage, involving a lot of employees in helping us come up with the best processes, and actually being our, let's say, champions for communication, as well as getting the word out there on how much better the cloud processes will make our processes more efficient, and free them up to do other more critical components within their business units versus focusing on how to get manual documents, pushed here or there. So a lot of automation has been placed into the cloud system, and we've done a lot of, let's say, removal and re-engineering of our processes, and a lot of change management occurred due to that. And at this point in time, the teams are very happy with what we've implemented in the SaaS cloud model, and the partner was very successful in working with us in making that happen. So hopefully that helps Srini in understanding how we approached it. So we focused on change management, then the project management component, the proper planning of the phase approaches, and then the actual execution occurred with the proper testing and getting champions globally on board from the various countries to ensure they communicated to their employees in their countries, specifically on the great value that they're seeing with our new systems in the cloud.
Thank you very much. Obviously, you and your team have put in a lot of effort into this plan, and all the best for the execution on the plan. So for the next question is, if you were to summarize and advise our customers, all the folks watching this summit over the next 2 days, what are the 3 most important things to bring out that customers and organizations need to keep in mind as they plan their own migration to OCI?
No, thank you, Srini, for that question. For migrating from on-premise to OCI, I think the biggest consideration that the companies should consider is the value proposition going to an OCI from on-premise. So the components that I leverage were around hardware refreshes, costs related to migrating from server to server, every 4 or 5 years, depending on when it took, the risk involved in doing so, versus coming to an OCI type model where that is no longer required, and that is all on the partner, in this case Oracle, to manage and swap hardware in and out, as well as performing refreshes. So from an organization perspective, make sure you take into consideration all the components that you have in your current data centers and the costs related to those, and managing that environment versus kind of putting it into a IaaS model or an OCI model where those resources are no longer required. We continue to have to manage not only the application, but the data center layer as well, when we were on premise and in-house. But once we got it to the cloud, and once we get it to the cloud in OCI, all of that kind of goes away. So we're reevaluating our resource requirements, and from a business case perspective, we took all that into consideration. I think companies should always take a full cost model into consideration from a data center perspective when they're migrating to OCI. And then the advantages, so there's some things that are kind of apples to apples, and you see a cost reduction going from a process, within your data centers and going to OCI. And then some things are, let's say, low-hanging fruit that you didn't have in the past, going to OCI and going to an IaaS model. So you have to take both of those into consideration. So some of the low-hanging fruits are components around, things that you take for granted in a data center that you manage, which, might be your electrical bill, or things like that might get reduced, your AC units, and those components all go away. But the biggest component that we'd like to take leverage of when we migrate to the cloud is making sure we have good SLAs in place to manage it going forward, ensure that we have 24/7 support, and that the system stays up and running at all times without any failures. So 24/7 is what I think most organizations are now requiring, because they're especially global, organizations. So we need to make sure that our systems stay up and running 24/7 for our critical processes to get completed and information to be changed for our employees. So that's very unique to us. So what I would recommend is organizations do a good, thorough job up front on a TCO, on ROI, and ensure that they understand the variations that they have in migrating to an OCI. And it is pretty much a slam dunk case in most of the times I've done this. I've done it a few times at previous lives as well as now at Gallagher. So looking forward to completing this process to migration to OCI and making sure that we are taking advantage of the TCO and the advantages of the services that we have coming to take care of the operational side and keep the lights on. Hopefully that helps, Srini.